They also don't trust the Pakis. Nobody trusts them. Neither the US nor the Chinese. So now, if you're an invader, you have to be targeted. And now that they are being targeted, the Chinese are crying that you can't protect us. How can we have 2 attacks in 6 months? What have you done? Raw is the gabbar as far as Pakistan is concerned. Anything and anything happening there, it's Indian raw involved. It's a deterrent and it ensures nuclear safety. The classical example is North Korea. No one tampers with it because it's got nuclear weapons. You don't know when and where that idiot will use it. See, the sort of write-ups or the inputs that are coming in, it's looking for a second strike capability, which means a nuclear submarine with the ability to launch nuclear missiles. It's hoping China gives it to it on the house if it wants Gwadar as a military. You won't see a single video of a US individual doing so. There was a case of that individual in the US individual who shot 2 Pakistanis. He spent time in jail before they got him out.
That was a one-off case, I think.
One-off case. Otherwise, you don't get that. That's a sort of difference in nature. Which is why the senior officers prefer going for courses to the US. How many want to go to Beijing? If you look at the top generals, all their children are there. So the desire of Pakistan is US weaponry, US funding, US relationship. As Pakistan is concerned, it wants to be closer to the US rather than China. For them, as I mentioned there, China is a compulsion. The reason why it's a compulsion is my enemy's enemy is my friend. It's as simple as that. The fact that India, China, no matter how, whatever ultimately comes through, the way things are moving today, there is a major trust deficit. The trust deficit has always existed. To some extent, we tried to ease it off, but then it backfired. So that trust deficit exists. For Pakistan, automatically China is an ally. And it's been an ally all through. It's always attempted to balance itself between China and the US. If you go back to Nixon's time, it was Pakistan that broke the ice, which enabled Kissinger to land up in Beijing and break the sort of US-China enmity into a sort of a friendship. And China exploited the US friendship, and that's how it got into WTO and the rest. Now, for Pakistan, getting weapons from China comes at a fairly low cost because for China, it's a second border for India to handle. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, China is no future. You can get weapons, you can get friendship, but that's not the place where the top-notch want to go. For them, everything is linked to the US. They know technology is US. They know weapons are US. The Chinese loans come at very high rates of interest. Those that flow from the US side, that's the World Bank and the rest, come at a far lower rate. The aid that comes from the US for their various other schemes that they keep providing, nothing of that flows from China. Plus, naturally, for Pakistan, moving into the West, into a world which is vastly different, is a far better option. You will never find a Pakistani general or a senior politician's kids ever studying in Beijing or anywhere in China. All of them are either in the US and few in the UK. Why? You prefer that side to this. That's the basic nature. To China, then why would you prefer China to the US? It's more of a compulsion. For Chinese, the CPEC is not to help out Pakistan. It's to move its oil from Gwadar into China without getting trapped into the Indian Ocean or the Malacca Straits. So both sides are looking at exploiting one another. Pak has always played the double game. If you look at the Taliban time, it supported the US in Afghanistan, gave them Karachi as a base for movement of the heavy goods, gave them flight space over Pakistan, but at the same time backed the Taliban. Today, the same Taliban is giving them a kick. And the moment the US left Afghanistan, it gave Pakistan the kick. So it ultimately had to fall back to China. But today, the US is showing a little bit of a leeway towards Pakistan. It's hoping to grab it. Just because Trump met Imran Khan, they're hoping that when he comes back, there will be a soft corner for Pakistan. But as long as the US keeps it away, you can bank on China. So they continue playing the double game, one side versus the other, hoping to leverage from both sides. The fact is, a country like India would think twice. We would believe in friendship, we would believe in being neutral, but Pakistan has no qualms. They have no conscience in the way they handle it. The army chief is desperate to go to the US every time. He's never so desperate to go to Beijing. The senior officers prefer going for courses to the US. How many want to go to Beijing? If you look at the top generals, all their children are there. So the desire of Pakistan is US weaponry, US funding, US relationship. China is not only a stopgap, but China is a compulsion because you need to handle India. So that's a double game, and they've played it through history. When have they not? They were part of Seattle, they were part of CENTO, but they were still there with China.
So
The
could
US
you
scrapped
just
Seattle and
explain for
CENTO.
the dilettante what is Cento and Seato? If
See, these were the earlier organizations created by the US, the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. CENTO was Central Treaty Organization. Both of these were US led groups. They, of course, are defunct now. Pakistan was a member of both, while it claimed it was non aligned, but it still remained close to China. India was not a member because India believed in non aligned. So it's always historically played a double game, hoping to grab from every side whatever it can. And it knows that the West will give it more than what China will. Anything China does. Secondly, the way the West, the attitude of the US personnel or people in Pakistan vis-a-vis the Chinese who are working with the CPEC, who think they're the rulers in Pakistan. Naturally, they're funding the CPEC. They act, and you've seen the number of videos with the way they maltreat Pakistani workers as also Pakistani women. But you won't see a single video of a US individual doing so. There was a case of that individual in the US individual who shot two Pakistanis. He spent time in jail before they got him out.
that was the one-off case, I think.
One-off case. Otherwise, you don't get that. That's a sort of difference in nature, which is why the top elite in Pakistan prefer the US. But at the same time, they want to exploit what they can from China because it comes at low cost.
So, what exactly is Pakistan demanding in return for Gwadar? I mean, complete access to Gwadar from China.
See, the sort of write-ups or the inputs that are coming in, it's looking for a second strike capability, which means a nuclear submarine with the ability to launch nuclear missiles. It's hoping China gives it to it on the house if it wants Gwadar as a military port. See, Gwadar as a civil port is already given to China for management for 40 years. Frankly, that is what China wanted it for. But to get it as a military port means they're getting a naval base. The fact that Pakistan it's seeking that from China, China is unwilling to give it because not only is that going against the NPA, the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, but at the same time, you are giving away something which you realize can alter everything and be a major problem in the years to come. They also don't trust the parties. Nobody trusts them. Neither the US nor the Chinese. The Chinese are also aware something that goes there is going to land up in somewhere or the other into the hands of the US in terms of to try and get hold and understand the Chinese technology. What they're giving them is a few ships, the J-20, the odd aircraft that they're giving them, which the world already knows about. They're not going to give them their nuclear secrets and the rest of it. But that's what Pakistan's demanding. hoping like hell and aware that China will not agree, but hoping that somewhere it does, because the moment you get a second strike, you're able to counter India.
So,
Today,
I
the
just
biggest
want you
fear
to
is,
explain the second strike capability once,
see,
just so that people
once
are.
you are able to hit the other nation by a nuclear weapon, by air, or by a missile, there has to be an ability to strike back. This ability to strike back flows from the sea. India today has launched two nuclear submarines, both carrying nuclear weapons and the ability to strike. The first had shorter distances, the second has longer distances. These nuclear submarines stay submerged for months on end. And they only have permission to launch once it's given in case of a nuclear strike. So, in case your nuclear capabilities are hit, the retaliation flows from the sea, which is what Pakistan was looking at. It's when you complete a nuclear triad: land, air, and sea.
True.
Land and air is available with all countries. Sea is very, very limited. That is what Pakistan wants, and it doesn't have. The US will never give it. It doesn't have the ability to develop it itself. After all, its entire nuclear arsenal, everything flows from the Chinese. The Chinese are unwilling to part with this. So, what it's hoping for, and it's aware that the Chinese will say no. Gwadar is a very attractive port. It's at the mouth when you're coming in from the Gulf. You can actually control the flow of oil from there. Anyone who has that base can alter things. If that base goes to China as a naval base, as long as it's a port and it's being used for transshipment, which is where they laid out the CPEC and the pipelines, it's a means of transshipping oil and goods, avoiding the Malacca Straits. It's also going to be cheaper than taking the ship all the way down via the Malacca Straits, going all around the Chinese coast and coming that side. So that's one of the reasons why they want this. But as a naval base, it can alter the dynamics of the entire region.
I'm sorry. I just was thinking, why exactly are they asking for nuclear strike capability, second
To
strike
be
capability?
able to counter India, you see, no, it is just that you have a deterrence. And you can proudly claim we are also one of the elite countries with a deterrence. Nuclear war is something unlikely. I mean, if there was even a slight chance, you would have seen it happening in one of the conflicts in progress. It's nowhere. So it's a very unlikely scenario. But the fact that you have a deterrence, the fact that you have this capability, you are a recognized nation as far as global military power is concerned. And the fact that you have it, you can proudly say that we're able to deter India in every form. So it's something that you have and something that you desire. It's the ultimate desire as far as they're concerned. That's nowhere on the cards. And they're hoping that the Chinese will agree, but there are other ways that the Chinese are going to twist them. You don't renew the next set of, I mean, when the current loans are coming up for repayment, don't renew it. Insist on repayment. They have to bend somewhere. Then there is a difference in approach, like I covered in the article, between the US and the Chinese. The Chinese are interested in resources in Pak, whether it's in Baluchistan, whether it's in POK. The US are not. They've got enough of their own. The Chinese have always been greedy, whether it's Pakistan, Afghanistan, any other country, they're looking to grab resources. Now, that's another reason why the preference of the military, which is actually the ones running the country, is towards the West. And it's not towards China per se. You're still there with China. They're still providing you what the Americans are unwilling to. But the fact is that you still would prefer the West supporting you rather than the Chinese.
So, what are the nuclear weapons other than the submarine that it is expecting? What are the other nuclear weapons that they really have, Pakistan?
See, they've got their nuclear warheads. I think, as per the latest SIPRI count, there may be a few more than India. That's with them. They've got the ability. They've got missiles which can launch nuclear weapons, nuclear warheads. These have also come from Chinese technology. They've got aircraft with nuclear capability, the same as we've got. In fact, they're more. While we mention no first strike capability, Pakistan. Sorry, first strike, no use of. I mean, we don't believe in the first strike. Pakistan has not taken that option. It believes that it can use tactical nuclear weapons, which are very small nuclear devices, on the battlefield in its own territory once Indian forces have come in fairly deep, as a means of trying to break the Indian assault. Nuclear weapons are a deterrent. There are options to keep the war below the nuclear level. You're seeing that in Russia, Ukraine. Not that Ukraine is a nuclear power, but they're ensuring that nothing takes the Russian anger to the level that it's forced to respond. So, even with India and China, with the way Galwan and everything that happened localized, it's everything is being kept at a level which is well below that. It is just a deterrent and it ensures nuclear safety. The classical example is North Korea. No one tampers with it because it's got nuclear weapons. You don't know when and where that idiot will use it. So it gives a nation security that there's no way it's going to go off. No one is going to try and break the nation. So that sort of security is provided to you by nuclear weapons.
Right. So, what about the Baluchi elements in Baluchistan? How are they going to handle this? Plus, could you give us, little bit about, what you think the Baluchis are up to against the Chinese and Pakistanis? Because as we speak, just yesterday there were 9 attacks in just 2 days.
You see, what's happening there as far as the Baluch are concerned, they're gaining more and more powerful. How are
Right.
they gaining power? They're gaining power because the Pak army is suppressing the population. Let's go back into time in India. 1990, when the J&K problem started, Indian forces went in hard into Kashmir. So when you applied hard force, hard pressure on the people were already facing the wrath of the militants or the terrorists who had come in. On the other side was pressure from the army. So when you applied the pressure, the population turned to shift towards terrorism. So you had hundreds of youth who joined the terrorist groups. What happened with passage of time? We changed strategy. We went in for winning hearts and minds. We started dealing with the population with a soft glove. Started opening schools. Started providing them with support. So what did you do? It took years. You weaned them away. Today, if you look at J&K, the number of people joining terrorist groups is minuscule, single to double digits. From 4 digits, you've come down to possibly in a year, they'll tell you it'll be 20, 30, 40. There's no numbers. Now, what Pakistan has been doing exactly what it did in 71 in Bangladesh, it suppressed the population. Now, every day you keep hearing, you're the one who keeps putting out of the number of Baluch who are missing, who've been picked up and who've gone missing. Now, what are you doing? Every one that you pick up, every one that you torture, every body that's found, you're pushing their family members to join terrorist groups or to join the BRA, any of the groups that are members of the BRA. Now, so automatically that is gaining in strength. Secondly, they've got bases in Afghanistan, they've got bases in Iran. All said and done. Pakistan, Iran, you may keep talking of whatever you want. The anti Iran militants are based in Pak. The anti Pak terrorists or militants are based in Iran. They're also based in Afghanistan. Now, you have created this environment, firstly, because of what you're doing with the population. You are building up their strength, you're building up the manpower they have. Weapons are flowing in from Afghanistan as also from other places. It's all available. Because you've gone wrong, you have to throw the blame on someone. So it's raw. Raw is the gabbar as far as Pakistan is concerned. Anything and anything happening there, it's Indian raw involved. So you're blaming raw, but unluckily, raw can do nothing because India's got no consulate operating in Afghanistan. All its consulates, Jalalabad, every one of them is shut. The only thing you got is a small detachment in the embassy, which is just monitoring aid. So you have created this monster. You're nurturing the monster by misbehaving with the population. And when they come down to complain about their missing and they want their those who've gone, who've been picked up and vanished back, you suppress them. So what are you doing? You're further alienating the population. And when you alienate the population, every movement of the forces reaches the militants. When it reaches them, they're able to plan ambushes because the territory is theirs. They know exactly where to hit. They know exactly what is the force level where. When you report 9 attacks in 2 days or one day, it's because they know exactly what you're doing. You leave a base in a direction, even before you've gone 100 yards, the message has reached that they're moving in this direction. And there are very limited routes in such areas. So what Pakistan has done is it's created this monster, it's feeding this monster. Second, come to the Chinese. Baluchis are aware Gwadar was a port from where they did their fishing. They're banned from going there. The whole area has been cordoned off. Their livelihoods are going. It's very clear that the CPC is taking a route via Baluchistan. Why? Because the Chinese want to exploit the resources in Baluchistan. Because Pakistan can't repay back. So if you can't repay back, what do? You give a few mines or you give some sort of resources back for a period of time. Now for the Baluch, it's another invader coming in. So now if you're an invader, you have to be targeted. And now that they are being targeted, the Chinese are crying that you can't protect us. How can we have 2 attacks in 6 months? What have you done? So that's exactly what's happening. And the Baluch have been able to infiltrate all the way into Pakistan. So the attacks happen all over. And they're suicide attacks. Even women have been involved, like the one in Karachi, where she targeted the professors in the Karachi, the Chinese professors in the Karachi University. Now, this is happening because you've alienated the population. You don't have support. You've got a man sitting at the head in Baluchistan who's pro-Pakistan, has no link at all with the people. The people have got you're exploiting gas from Baluchistan, but none of it goes back to the people there. Imagine if we were to take the electricity that's being produced in J&K and move it to the rest of India and give nothing to the people there, what was the point? So this is where you've actually alienated a group which has grown in strength. And now you're trying to suppress it further, thinking that application of force is the means of doing it. It's not going to work. You have a terrorist organization or you have freedom fighters, you call them what you want. The fact is that unless you separate them from the people, you will never succeed. That's what we did. They don't want to learn from others. You've been able to separate terrorist groups from the local populace. And that's how today J&K, you and me can go there on a holiday without a fear. Try and do that in Baluchistan. So that is the difference that's happened.
So, with Trump coming in, is there any hope for Pakistan? Um, I mean, I am seeing this news that Trump might release Imran Khan. You also mentioned that, Pakistan has
See,
little. Yeah. How do you see things going forward?
when a person is trapped, like Imran Khan is, and his party has got no other solution, the only thing they will say is let Trump come in because he met Imran, he knows Imran. Trump never spoke to him, he met him once. Biden never spoke to him throughout his tenure. Whether Trump will get back to speaking If he has to speak, he'll speak to the current government. Why is he bothered? Imran Khan is himself in a bind like an idiot. For him, he feels as long as I stay in Pakistan, I can come back to power. The people have realized that I am suffering. I am not taking a deal. I am not getting out of Pakistan. I'm going to stay here. So they will, at some stage of time, revolt and they will bring about a change and I'll come. Unlikely to happen, the Pak military doesn't care whom it fires on, as long as its power is not touched. They don't want Imran because Imran is looking to bring down their hold and power on the country. They're offering him deals he's unwilling to take. How long are you going to continue staying there without taking a deal? Nawaz went out. Imran went out of a favor. Nawaz came back.
True.
That's the offer that Imran is getting. As long as Shehbaz is there, let him be there. Once he's out of favor, we'll get you back. But by then, possibly Bilawal might have come up. So for him, the point is, if I have to gain, I have to remain. He's stubborn. He's hoping like hell Trump is going to come in and do something. Trump is not bothered. What is Pakistan as far as you have to remember the last time when Trump was in power, the US was in Afghanistan. Pakistan had relevance. It is in Biden's tenure in 2021 that the US pulled out of Afghanistan. Once it's pulled out of Afghanistan, the value of Imran is gone. The value of Pakistan is gone, which is why the US is maintaining ties, continuing providing aid, keeping a link with Pakistan, not getting involved. None of the US people have ever spoken about Imran Khan's release. All they say is that we just expect Pakistan to follow the rule of law. So there is a difference. So for Trump now coming in, the whole scenario in South Asia has changed. With the US no longer in Afghanistan, Pakistan has no value.
Right.
Not the value when he had to meet Imran last time.
So the nuclear deal between Pakistan and China is not going through. That's a given.
That's given.
Right.
Ultimately, Gwadar will go to China. It's a port with China. It may not become a military base, but it will remain a seaport with China. They've invested, they built it. They're running it for 40 years. 80% of the income from the port goes to China. I think 80 or 85%, whatever is the figures laid down. Limited amount goes to Pakistan. So ultimately, at the end of the day, Pakistan is getting nothing. China's built it. China is using it. It'll be like Hambatota.
That's it. So I wanted to understand your point of view on this point, like at this point, to understand if Pakistan is really getting anything out of China. But now that you've
Nothing.
so the double game is pretty much shot at their own
It
foot.
is
I
the
think.
history. When has
Yeah.
it not been there? That's the way they play and they have no conscience about it. That's the best part of
Right. Right. All right. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
it.
It's
Not at
very
all.
interesting, and you've explained it really nicely and pretty. It's anyone can comprehend what's actually happening and what Pakistan Army is planning to do. Thank you so much
Most
for your time.
welcome. Not at all. A total pleasure.
Good night.
Okay.